It looks like now the White House is considering,
right? And
maybe banning trans people from being able to obtain guns, which makes me wonder.
People have argued that I'm part of that, and I'm very proud of that.
How exactly would that work, right? When you have, let's say, transgender individuals like Blair White,
you're on the
who's very
left, right,
convincing.
Democrat, Republican.
Okay.
Do you agree with this thing?
Are you going to do a
not
genital
agree with this thing?
test?
And if you're a right winger
anyway, so
who
here's
says
what we
on the
know.
grounds of
Mary
the Second
Margaret
Amendment,
Olahan,
I do
who
not
is the
agree
very
with this
reporter
thing.
that
I
you
think
saw
it
in
is
that video,
wrong.
just
Okay,
reported
great,
today.
fantastic.
Breaking,
We
the
agree.
Justice Department
This
is
not a thing
deliberating
that you
banning
should
guns
do.
for
And
transgenders
I
as
want
part of
you
a
to note, by
range
the
of
way,
options
whether you're on
blocking
the right or
mentally
left,
unstable
here we are
individuals
again in
from
culture
committing acts of
wars.
violence.
I know.
The Daily Wire has learned,
This is intentionally
and an
done
anonymous DOJ source
to
also
just get your
told the
eye off
Daily
the
Wire the
ball
following:
and just fight each
individuals
other, to be
within
honest
the
with you.
Justice
Yeah, because it's
Department
gonna
are
force us to give you
reviewing
stats
ways
about
to
white
ensure
males
that
and
mentally
how
ill
they
individuals
do the
suffering from
overwhelming
gender
majority of
dysphoria
shootings.
are
Just to point
unable
out the
to obtain
hypocrisy, it's not
firearms
trans
while
people
they
doing
are
most of the shootings. That's
unstable
nuts,
and
right? But then, of course, like
and a
if
DOJ
you fall fully into
spokesman
that trap,
would not
then you
comment on
argue
specific
for
measures being
months and
considered, but
years
said
about
that
who's
a
more
range of
guilty, white
options is
males
on
or
the
trans
table.
people.
What's up,
Okay,
internet
you're
folks?
right
My
in
name
the
is
thick of
Ralph,
the
and
culture
welcome
wars
back to
then,
the
and they've
channel.
got you perfectly
As you
distracted
just
and
seen,
exactly where they
the
want
Trump
you
DOJ
to continue the
is
run.
talking
Listen,
about banning
the
transgender
horrific
individuals
shooting that
from
happened at
obtaining
that Catholic
firearms,
church last week.
and
It was
I
last week,
just
right?
don't
Yes.
like this at
Okay.
all. Let's go ahead and listen
That
to TYP a little
shooter
bit more about it.
was obviously,
Now, do I
based on
think
the
they're
evidence
actually
we've seen
gonna try to
already,
go through with this?
deranged?
I mean, I
mentally
don't know.
ill?
There were
It
all
seems
sorts
like
of
another
problems with that
swirl.
individual,
The Trump
especially with
administration
what
is throwing at us, but
scrawled,
just for the
across
sake of this
magazines and
discussion,
stuff,
I
hated
want to
pretty
take
much
this
every group
seriously,
you can
as if they're being
imagine,
serious
you know,
about it,
Latinos,
and they're
Jewish
literally
people,
going to
it
go out
doesn't
of their
matter.
way
Muslims.
to discriminate against one
So
tiny
this
group of
person
people in this
clearly
country
needed
based on
a
mental
handful
health
of
care,
shootings
like
that
needed
happened
help
or
there
were
was
carried
something
out
wrong
by
with this person.
transgender people.
I say that
And
because
we're gonna give
if
you the
you
numbers
are
in a second.
part
But
of the federal government, and you
it
are
divides the
genuinely
country. It
concerned
directs
about your fellow
hatred and
Americans,
bigotry.
you are worried
toward,
about what is
one
happening
group of
with
people
shootings
in this country.
It leads
You
to
would
the
actually
types of
look for
conversations that we're about to
actual
have, where we
serious
break
solutions.
down how many
You
mass
would try to
shootings are
figure out,
committed
okay,
by
what is
straight
the
white
through
males and how
line
many
when
are
it comes
committed
to
by
these mass
transgender
shootings?
people. I'm
Well,
sick
a lot
of
of these
having
mass
these
shooters
discussions
have
Exactly.
serious mental health issues.
You know,
And rather than
it's
just
wild
talking
how
about it every once in a while to
has
prevent the
evolved
conversation
over
about
time.
possible gun
I never in
control,
my life
how
thought that
about
I would be
these
agreeing with her on
politicians
anything,
who
but
really
she's
have no
got this
interest
completely
in
right
serving
here.
us,
We can't start
in looking out for
discriminating
us,
against
have no
people
interest in
and
figuring out
limiting
what's
their
in the
rights
best
based
interest of the
on
American people. What they
ideology
do is they
that
throw
is
red meat,
completely
fight each
antithetical
other. Go ahead,
to
plebes. Go ahead, fight each
America,
other.
to the
And we're not going to
Constitution.
do anything to
That's not
allocate
what this
funding
is
for mental
about.
health care.
You know,
Oh, you're
I don't
drowning
think
in
most
debt.
Americans
Sorry,
have
we're
actually
going to
read
help
federal
our private
newspapers
equity
or,
buddies
you know,
snatch up
Thomas
all of
Paine
the remaining
is
residential
my
real
favorite,
estate
though he's not
in the
technically a
middle of a
founding
housing
father.
crisis. Our federal
We'll call him
government
a
is just
founding
garbage.
figure.
Okay,
He
Congress is
is my
useless.
favorite
I don't even
founding
know
figure.
what
Thomas
Trump is up
Paine's
to. It's
common
complete
sense
and utter
and
chaos.
especially
He's
rights of
all
man
over the place when it comes to
are,
his
you know, some of
policies.
my
He's talking
favorite
about how much he wants peace,
founding
and
era
then he is
texts
essentially starting a war with
that I've
Venezuela,
ever
a
read.
literal hot war with
And
Venezuela. What are we doing here?
what you get from these
Don't get
readings is
distracted
that
by the red meat.
America,
Okay?
the idea
Your
of
enemy
America,
is not
the
your fellow
ideal,
American, regardless
is
of
the
what their
protection of
identity
the
is. Your
individual,
enemy at
the
this point are the
ability
politicians who are
of
pitting
the
you against
sovereign
your fellow
to
Americans. That's what's happening
practice
right
their
now.
life as they see fit,
Anyway, do you want me to get
believe what
into
they
the
see
details?
fit,
Just give us one or two
as
facts so
long as
people
they're not
understand
interfering with
the
other people's
context of
rights.
who's actually doing
As
most of
long
the
as they're not
shootings.
doing
And look,
harm.
as I give you the stats and the
And too
details, I just
much
want to preface
of
this by
our
saying
country
I am
has
not in
become too
favor of
comfortable
banning
with
guns for
preempting harm
anyone based
by
on their
outlawing
identity,
things
whether we're talking
that
about
they
straight
see
white
as
males or
potentially
transgender people,
dangerous.
okay?
So
Now,
lots of things here.
is
First of
there
all,
an
obvious
epidemic of
discrimination.
trans
So if you're in favor of
shooters,
this,
or is
you
trans
don't believe in
ideology
equality.
a national
Period.
emergency?
And you can say, hey,
Well, there
I
are
have
some
good reasons. If
researchers
you're
who
a
have looked
radical
into
right,
this, including
so
Michael
I
Jensen,
really
the
don't like those
research
people.
director at the
I just
National
think that they're
Consortium
all
for the
mentally
Study
ill.
of Terrorism
Brother,
and Responses
I mean,
to
if you're a
Terrorism.
fascist,
This individual says,
I can make that same
no.
argument about you, which is going to be
Jensen's
point
research
number
has
2 in a
identified
second.
more than
Okay?
1,000
But,
mass casualty
no,
plots
but
where the
what the
perpetrator
argument you
clearly
can't
intended
make
to
is,
kill
I
or
wanna treat
injure as
everyone
many
equally.
people as
You're
possible.
not. You're
Since
saying
the
these
start of
group of people should have
2023,
less rights.
you can
Okay.
count on
Argument
less
number
than
2
one
is
hand
related.
how many of
Be
those
careful
were
what you wish for if
perpetrated
you're a
by a
right-winger.
transgender
Because once you
individual,
ban one group of people from owning
and
guns,
we'll also
well, you just
take a
open that
moment to
door.
note that
Now we can
between
ban other
2004
groups
and
of people from owning
2014,
guns.
And that right there is
suspected
something
terrorists attempted to
the right
purchase
has
guns
seemed
from
to have
American
forgotten.
dealers at at least
all through Biden's
2,233 times.
presidency when
Yeah, I
his
mean,
White
look,
House
and
or the Democrats
2,043 of
will
those
try and
cases,
pass
in
some sort of
2,043 of
bill
those
or,
cases,
with the
91% of the
prosecutions of
time,
Trump,
they
weaponizing the
succeeded
DOJ,
because it
weaponizing
is
all
very
the
easy to
things that they
purchase
did.
guns.
The
Like, as
right
we've talked about on this
continuously
show, like,
warned,
one of the things
you
that I do
shouldn't do
have a little
this
bit of a
lest it be
problem with
used
is that you
against
can
you
go to
when
a
you're
gun
not in
show, you can
power.
buy a gun from the
And
back of someone's truck without going through a
it's the
background
exact
check.
same.
I'm not
It's
trying
the
to be super
exact same
restrictive. I just want to make sure
thing.
that people who are bad guys
What's to
aren't
say
able
this
to
isn't
just
used
legally buy
against
as many guns as
any
they want.
group that happens to
Now,
be in
as for the
opposition of
demographics of
the
mass
power
shooters,
at
according to
any given
data
time?
dating back all the way to
What if the Democrats
2006,
win
most mass shooters
next
and
election?
accused shooters
Highly
are either
unlikely,
white,
God
38%, or
forbid.
black,
But let's
29%,
pretend for a
followed
minute.
by Hispanic or
The
Latino,
Democrats win the
14%,
next
Asian,
election in
Pacific
2028.
Islander,
Let's
5%, and
say
Native
they
American,
win
1%.
in
The remaining 10%
2026 by
are
a
of
small
another race
majority,
or their
and
race
then they
is not
take the White
available.
House in 2028.
Furthermore, only 16
What's to
of the
stop them from
492
using this
deadliest mass
precedent
shootings in the United States, just
to
3%,
disarm
are
any
known or
group
suspected
that
to have been
they may
committed by a
have
woman
enmity
acting
towards,
alone?
that they may
Yeah.
have
So
disagreement
if we
with?
wanted to ban people
This is
based on their
absurd.
proclivity to
This
commit
is a weapon that will
mass
almost certainly
shootings,
be
the
used
number
against
one group we
the
would
very
ban is
people attempting to wield it
males.
now, here, and
Forget
today. And
race,
in fact, that's
forget
actually what's
gender,
happening, in a sense,
gender identity, whatever,
as the left has
males,
continued to
okay?
try and
Now, should
diminish
we
or
ban all males
eliminate
from having
the
guns?
people's right to keep and
Well,
bear arms.
you know, I'm
Now it's
for
being turned against
significant
them.
gun control, so don't
And
get me
people want to
started,
laugh.
okay? And I wouldn't keep it to
Oh,
males, I'd keep it
now
to
we'll make the
everyone.
left
But my
defend gun
guess
rights.
is the majority of the country will say,
Everyone
oh,
should be
hell no,
defending
that
gun
makes no
rights
sense.
all the
So
time
why are
for
you
everybody,
targeting the
just like
3%
everyone
instead
should
of
be
the
defending
97%?
the freedom of
That
speech
doesn't make any
all
sense
the
at all.
time.
And so guys, look, we've been
I
honest from
grew
day
up
one on all these issues, and
hearing,
we've drawn the
I don't
line
agree
where
with what
honestly
you
the
would
great
what
majority
you
of
say,
Americans
but I
have,
would
but
die
almost no one
to
on the left
defend
or right
your
has,
right to
which
say
is
it. That is the
we think that
world that
there's
I want to
issues with
live in.
transports, and we think that
That's the
you've got
world
to
that
be
I
careful with
prepared for
surgery
growing
before
up.
18,
And
etc.
now
Not care
I
we
live in
shouldn't
a
go before
world
18.
where nobody
All these things
understands that.
that, as it turns
Where
out, the polling
seemingly
indicates about
nobody
where 80% of the country
is
is. But we're
is
also where 80% of the country is
consistent
when you
with their
start
beliefs.
taking away rights from transgender Americans,
Anyone on the
right?
right
So
supporting this
you
lacks
can't take rights
integrity.
I don't
away
know if you
when
guys
it
have
comes
noticed, but over
to,
the last few years, I've been pretty defensive
whether you
about
treat
gun
them
rights. I
differently in
believe
the
in the Second
military, whether
Amendment.
you treat them
We can
differently
have
when
a
it comes to their
conversation
constitutional
about
rights.
some
And this is
regulations. I think a
the
federal
right wing
background
would
check
certainly
is
agree. This is a
important. I think we should
core
have that. But
constitutional
I
right.
think that some elements of the left do go too far in wanting to ban guns. It is a constitutional right. We should have that constitutional right. Now, it would be interesting to see because if you who are in favor of banning guns overall should be coming out to say that our constitutional rights don't apply to certain people just simply based on their because trans people are being targeted. Then you don't believe in America. I don't want anyone and you don't love our targeted because of their identity.
Yeah,
I don't care if they're trans. I don't care if they're white males. I don't care if they're from the planet, Mars. It doesn't matter. If we have that constitutional right, it should apply to everyone. Now, if we want to have a conversation about certain really mental health
and isn't it
conditions
interesting? And that's why I
that would
love
make
our audience. I
one
think,
more of
and I love that you guys
a
are part of the
risk
show.
if they were to obtain
Smartest audience in
guns.
the country.
Let's have that conversation. But to boil it down to one specific group, in this case, transgender people, is
makes
pretty
you
simple.
realize,
There you got Anna.
there is two
right,
different ways to frame the same story, isn't it?
Everyone,
and it's interesting
like
the
I said,
choices that
everyone
people
should
make,
have the right to
right?
keep and bear
When it
arms.
applies to one group of people, they go with a
Other than
different
very
headline. Another group of
specific
people,
individual
wait a minute,
factors,
100%
like she
opposite
said,
headline. So in this case,
certain
yes, you
mental
could be
health
talking about
conditions, maybe
taking away
okay,
the
we can
right of
consider
trans Americans to
limiting
defend themselves,
or
period.
banning an
And that's
individual
framing
from obtaining a
that is not
firearm
good for
due to
the
their mental
DOJ
state
in this
or their
ridiculous
lack of
effort to
capacity.
target our fellow
But
Americans.
generally
Every time you ring
speaking,
the bell
no
below,
one
an
should be
angel gets his
banned.
wings.
No
Totally
one
not
should
true,
lose
but
a
it does
right
keep you
based
updated
on
on
a
our live
group
shows.
association. Plain and simple. Now, and I'll say we can have a discussion about regulations, which I am essentially against in any way, shape, and form. Um, it's pretty simple. The Second Amendment's the only one that specifically says shall not be infringed. I don't have to apply for government licensing or go through any sort of background check or accreditation to post a paper or to post online or to speak, on a corner or in a town square. So there's really no argument there for the regulation of firearms. In fact, there's every argument against. Um, Beyond that, though, it's just wild to sit here and being in agreement with TYT and Anna Kasparian, or at least more so in agreement with on a gun issue than Republicans, conservatives, people on the right, whatever.
And I see what they're doing here. This is also a ploy to continue tearing the country apart. Make no mistake about it. That's what this is about.
Yeah, so that's what the second thing I was going to get to. First of all, once you start characterizing people as domestic terrorists, we're off to the races, right? So look, there's an argument to be made when they do a political manifesto and they say, okay, here I'm going to kill all these black people in the church, or if you found someone in any category, trans, Muslim, whatever, and they're like, oh, I mean to kill all straight people or all white people or Christians, whatever, right? Okay, you can make an argument. But the whole category, all like anyone who by definition has done some violent act and is a trans person is a terrorist, that's crazy talk, right? Because now we're just gonna label each other terrorists back and forth. When a Democrat gets in office, all the right wings are terrorists. And
not to get off topic, but during Biden's administration, they pretty much did call everyone on the right terrorist.
So I'm gonna wait to see like a more comprehensive reaction from conservatives and the right. Initially though, I did see a lot of Second Amendment defenders coming out and saying exactly what you're saying, that this is dangerous. And credit to them, because they can see that this does in fact open the door to the very thing that they want to prevent.
Yeah, 100%. This is an idea that we should just nip in the bud right here, right now. We need to just let the Trump White House know we're all Americans, dude. We all have the same rights, and you get to keep those rights until you, as an individual, lose them. Through some action, behavior, choice of your own. That's pretty much where I stand on this, plain and simple. I I do not like communists, socialists. I do not like them. I think that their ideology is inherently dangerous. You just, look at the state of the Soviet Union and communist China and all the bodies stacked up over there. It's pretty hard to make an argument that those collectivist ideologies aren't inherently dangerous. But I don't think that here in America, you idiotically flying a hammer and sickle flag should, you know, disarm you. If it comes down to it, and you start acting a fool, then we'll deal with that appropriately. But until then, we are all free Americans to prosper or fail of our own accord. We all have the same inherent rights as guaranteed by the Constitution, and those rights should never be diminished due to a group association. This is a country of individual accountability, or at least this is what it was supposed to be. All right, so that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Do you support a trans ban? Do you think there's an argument for it? Are you a Second Amendment advocate? This is a really potentially nuanced issue. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about it.